Last year, we spent a ton of time talking about tight ends. How many tight ends are on the field? Are there too many tight ends on the field? And now I think the conversation is going to flip from, hey, do the Browns have enough tight ends on the field? Do they have enough time to get all of these tight ends that they like out there? To do the Browns have enough tight ends on this roster? Right? How things can change in just a year. But the Browns have decided to cut some of the fat there at the position. And in cutting some of the fat, their question remains, hey, are they too lean now? Because a team that's had, since Kevin Stefanski has taken over, at least 3 solid tight ends now, down to 1 in a possible, right? So let's go through all of this position. Interesting position to talk about here. We're going to start this conversation with number 87, Marcus Santos-Silva. Now, to some of you, that may be a familiar name. To some of you, it may be a super unfamiliar name. I wouldn't blame you, because Marcus Santos-Silva is not a former college football player. He is a former college basketball player. He's listed at around 6'6" or 6'7", depending on the website, and 261 here on ESPN is what they said they had him at in basketball, at least, and that's what they have him here on Pro Football Focus. Now, again, he didn't go through the combine. He does not have any official measurements. We have no idea how tall or big he is. Actually, these are just kind of approximations based off of what Texas Tech reported, or at least Texas Tech basketball has reported. So I doubt he's 6'7". I think he's probably 6'5", 6'6", and probably around 250. But promising size, promising height and weight profile. I don't know what his vertical leap is like or anything like that. I mean, he's a former basketball player. He can at least dunk. So there's that. He has decent reach. I don't know what his wingspan is, right? A lot of the things that you would want to know from combine measurements, you just don't get here with Marcus, because he's not somebody who's been through that process. Or if somebody can point me to where that has happened, maybe at his pro day, but I don't even know if he had a pro day. But yeah, nonetheless, right? This is Marcus Santos-Silva. For what it's worth, averaged 4 points, 4 rebounds in college basketball last year for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Will be trying his hand at football for the first time in a while. So, he's an interesting project, right? He's a fun guy to watch. I doubt he's going to do anything for this team in year one, and he is almost certainly a practice squad candidate, right? Like, I don't think he takes any serious minutes. I think even if they get thin at the position, they don't take him off the practice squad to do so. He is fully a project player, fully somebody I expect to be a competition for, sorry for yawning, being the competition for making the team as a practice squad athlete, more so than being a tight end for this team this year. So he's probably not going to be the third tight end on the roster that they keep. The next guy we can talk about here is Zaire Mitchell-Payton. He is from Florida Atlantic University, another rookie in this class here. 6'5", 267, so good strength on him. Does not have a ton of receiving stats coming out of college, so I think they're looking at him as a blocking tight end prospect. We'll see how he does in that area. Again, very hard to project if he's going to be able to block at an NFL level, especially in year one, especially as an undrafted free agent there. So, again, he's another guy that the Browns are going to kind of be looking at, but we kind of know who the main guys are going to be on this roster. The next guy we could talk about who has the lowest grade in the whole room is Nakia Griffin-Stewart. A lot of hyphenates here. He comes from Pitt. I think he graduated in 2019. Not a super impressive career at Pitt. Was a transfer from Rutgers. Again, never really a receiving threat. He's going to be one of those guys that's in there to block, more than likely, if he makes the team. Pretty bad Pro Football Focus grade on 3 snaps from last year, 46.7, 3 snaps, though, and he was only in there to run block. So he barely played last year. So not much to say on him. And you can see the problem with the tight end room, right? We are 1, 2, 3 guys in. And not only are these guys that you haven't heard of, which isn't necessarily or inherently a problem, but these are 3 guys who you have no idea what to expect of. Like, absolutely no clue. And there is no expectation that these guys can play any role for this team, at least right now, in year 1. There just isn't. So now let's move on to tight end. Miller Forrestall, former Alabama player. What year did he come out of college? I believe he was 2020, if I'm not wrong. Came out last year, 2021. Former Alabama product, 24 years old. Played last year about 11 snaps. So, again, not a substantial amount of snaps here. Graded out at 53.7. Nothing spectacular here. Again, he's another inline blocking style tight end. I think they'll have a competition between Miller, Zaire, and I guess Nakia, Griffin Smith. Whoever wins that out, probably going to be the 3rd tight end. I think if that's, and probably like what, Johnny Stanton. Oh, that's another wrinkle to come in here. Johnny Stanton, who is technically the fullback, might be the 3rd tight end. Now, he is not big at all, right? 5'10", 2 no way, he's 5'10", 207. Okay, that's Dearness Johnson. Okay, Johnny Stanton is 6'2", 250. Small for a tight end, but he might be fine as an inline blocking guy. That might be how they want to use him, and he's somebody you could flex to be that true fullback position. I don't know what you do there with Johnny, but, I mean, if it's down to Johnny Stanton being the 3rd inline guy, or Zaire Mitchell Payton, or Miller Forrestall, I don't see much of a difference there. I don't even think the height's going to be that big of a deal because I don't think you would get that back in performance. I think Johnny Stanton's probably a better blocker than all 3 of those guys, and probably you'll get the same amount of receptions from that guy as a receiver. So Johnny Stanton should not be discounted. He's probably not going to make the team as a running back or a fullback, but he might make the team as a tight end. Technically, as a H-back is what they like to call him sometimes. So I expect that to be where Johnny Stanton, competes in that role. So again, that's the competition for that 3rd tight end spot. Not the most spicy competition in the world, but it is what it is at that position. Harrison Bryant here is probably, 100% going to be the 2nd tight end, unless like Marcus Santos-Silva turns into Jimmy Graham in day 1, which is very unlikely. It's probably going to be Harrison Bryant here as the number 2 tight end. 64.8 Pro Football Focus grade from last year, which is decent. 402 snaps. He didn't get a ton of targets last year. I think he's due for a good one. I think he'll be fine in his 3rd year. He's somebody who really flashed a lot during his rookie year, especially as a receiving tight end. And he had a pretty good receiving grade, 71.3 last year, but just did not get the amount of snaps on that receiving side, and definitely didn't get the targets that you would want out of him. He's somebody who can also flex and be an H-back. He did that in college. I don't know if he's really good at it in the NFL. His run block grades have not been great. 49.9 is what he got last year. 64.2 in pass blocking. So, again, he's not terrible as an inline blocker, but he does have some room to grow if he wants to be a fullback, because that run block grade's not good at all. So, again, Harrison Bryant, I expect him to have a breakout this year. Would I qualify as a breakout for Harrison Bryant anywhere between 400 to 800 yards? I don't think he gets all the way up to 800. I would say 400 to 600 is probably the range. Maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns. If he gets that, I consider that a very nice breakout for Harrison Bryant, given that he did not get much production last year. And speaking of the main guy that everybody's expecting to be a breakout, and that's David Njoku. Just got his money this year. You look at his production, it wasn't amazing last year, but if you watch the games and watch the tape, it was kind of head-scratching that he didn't get the ball more. And now maybe that's something that they rectified. They got rid of Austin Hooper. Maybe just getting rid of Hoop makes you more productive in the tight end room just because you can get the ball to David Njoku more often and you don't have these hoops to get through. David comes in with a 70.9 Pro Football Focus grade. And here's the thing I want to address with David is a lot of the concerns that Browns fans still kind of hold over the head of David Njoku are pretty outdated, right? And what are the concerns with David Njoku? He can't catch and he can't block. That's usually the two things that bug people about David Njoku. He's been one of the better one of the more shorthanded tight ends the last 2 seasons, not just in Cleveland, in the NFL. So I think I wouldn't say it's safe to say those problems are gone, but I would say it would be reasonable to expect that those drop problems he had early in his year have been handled and should not come up again. It's always a possibility that he has those issues again, given more targets, but it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. And then when it comes to blocking, he's been the best blocking tight end on the Browns. 70 blocking grade in pass blocking situations, 72.4 in run blocking situations. He is not just not a liability as a pass blocker, which is all we wanted him to be coming out of Miami. He is a net positive as a blocker, both in pass and both in run. And for a team that runs a ton of play action, right, like the Browns do, you need tight ends who can be out there for both. Because what happens, right, is a lot of teams have inline blocking tight ends that are situational. This guy can pass block, he can't run block. This guy can run block, he can't pass block. And you're left with one choice or the other. Either you give this defense a huge clue and say, hey, our pass block tight end is in the game right now, so we're probably going to pass it. So if it's a play action, sit on it a little bit, right? Or you can put the run blocking guy to try to double fake and play some 4D chess with the defense, but then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage because the guy who sucks at pass blocking is going to be put in a situation to pass block. With David Njoku, you don't have to worry about that. And let's be real, the only problem with that theory is that David Njoku is your best pass blocker, your best run blocker. But if you ever run play action, David Njoku's probably running a route, right? He's not going to be back there blocking. But that's where Harrison Bryant can be in there. You can use David Njoku as a little bit of a decoy, keep him in the block because he's so good in both, and then run little Harrison Bryant out there and let him pick up some of those easy yards where you don't need the most skilled guy in the world. You just need to get the ball to a big body, right? And I think that's what will happen there. David Njoku, I project him to have a breakout. What's a breakout for David Njoku? Again, not great number, not like Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce numbers, nothing like that. But I would say 8 touchdowns, 800 yards would be really solid. I would be fine with that kind of a season from David Njoku. I don't need him to break the 1,000 mark. I don't think he needs to, and I don't think he will. But 8 touchdowns, that's good work there from that position. Overall, this is not the deepest tight end room, right? Harrison Bryant goes down. I don't know what they're gonna do, right? Like that's a problem. David Njoku goes down. It looks ugly, right? I think this room, as much as we have talked about the wide receiver room to death, that room's fine. To me, this tight end room's a bit in a worse situation. Now, it's completely possible that they're just de-emphasizing the position, which is why it's going to be less deep. But still, I have some concerns. I don't think this is a room that's going to hold up to some injury. I would give this room a C-. I don't think it's the greatest room in the world. You don't have any solid proven blockers, inline blocking tight ends on this roster. I don't like that at all for a play action heavy team. I like Harrison Bryant. I like David Njoku, but you have nothing proven after that. I mean, nobody has more than like 10 snaps after those two players. That's a problem. That is a massive problem. So we'll see what this tight end group looks like, but thank you guys for watching. You guys have a great day. Have a good night.